Welcome to the Mojo for Musicians podcast from Manny Cabo Media, where we dig deep into today's top strategies to help you take your music career to the next level with real, raw, and uplifting conversations with industry professionals that are making moves, making a difference, and making the best versions of themselves to inspire you to do the same. What's going on, everybody? I'm your host, Manny Cabo, and welcome to another episode of Mojo for Musicians.
Hey, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in the world listening in. Thanks to tuning into another episode of Mojo for Musicians, the source of inspiration for my beautiful ecosystem of artists. And just as a reminder, please remember, subscribe, rate, and review this podcast so I can keep inspiring musicians globally to never give up on their creative dreams. And with that being said, today's topic is one that has certainly catapulted my career in more ways than I can imagine. And that is the topic of collaborations. I can't tell you how many times collaborative projects have allowed me to connect with new people, opening the doors for new performances, interviews, media attention, and the list goes on. It's certainly a topic that I always highlight when speaking to students or fellow musicians because ego, and I repeat, ego can be a tricky thing. And in more cases than I'd like to admit, it's the ego that blocks these potentially fruitful relationships from coming to fruition. You know, whether it's our insecurities or competitive natures, intimidation, or any other limiting beliefs that we generate in these crazy minds of ours. So today's focus is going to be on some of the tips that I've implemented in my career as an artist, photographer, and podcast host to bring about the most positive and collective gains in all our creative ventures. So let's jump into tip number one. Tip number one is one that I just alluded to. And in my personal opinion, it's the most important one when it comes to attempting to collaborate, which is letting go of your ego. People, let go of your ego and let it take a back seat. And I say this not only because I've seen so many artists fail to get to that next level, but because I too was a culprit, and I allowed my ego to get in the way of my thought process. And believe me, I certainly took a beating because of it. But fortunately for me, the contrast of those situations gave me the clarity to turn it around. And now I just focus my attention on educating people to let go of that inner illusion. Because guys, that's essentially what it is. It's the inner projection of insecurity or doubt, or even fear of letting go of your control of things, or thinking that you know everything, or thinking that, hey, things have to be a certain way, right? Because we all have these thoughts. And in more cases than I'd like to admit, that wasn't the case at all. And I know that my ego stems from my upbringing, of people verbally abusing me or trying to change who I was or ridiculing the way I dressed because I painted my nails black or because I was always banging my pencils on the desk and being this loud, boisterous kid, whatever. So naturally, I became very apprehensive when people wanted to impart their opinions on things. And believe me, this took me a while to get over, but thankfully I did. And what I realized was I wasn't confident in myself. Not enough anyway. So what I did was I took some years off and really harnessed my creative passions and mastered my craft as best as I possibly could to at least better position myself when it came to dealing with these situations of collaborations, where I felt strong enough to say, I have a lot to offer and I know what I'm talking about, but so do other people. So let's see what we can all create here. So if any of you out there are listening or dealing with this right now, you're not alone, but you have to do the inner work, because once you deal with that contrast, then you too will see the clarity and benefits of embracing these joint efforts, because it's certainly changed my life in ways that I never thought possible. So again, be patient with yourself, but do the work, because great things do happen when we learn to work together. Tip number two, collaborations always cultivate a team environment. It's so much more pleasing when you allow people to engage together for the purposes of a great end result. Makes sense, right? And it's been proven over and over again in the business world alone that when you approve any type of teamwork environment, it also builds the spirit of camaraderie. And it inspires people. It inspires everybody in the group to be more engaged and eager to come up with that great end result, and also learn how to deal better with any changes that may arise. Because guess what? It's going to happen. And instead of labeling it a hardship with a negative connotation, the consensus conversely becomes a challenge that can elevate everyone, which means that you've all leveled up. You see the difference? My dad always had this great quote that he used to say, "The union always makes the force." And I couldn't agree with him more. And he always uses this analogy of being an athlete all my life, playing baseball. I was a pitcher, right? And even though I was pretty darn good, averaging 10 strikeouts a game, throwing close to 90 miles an hour, I couldn't win a 9-inning game by myself. I needed the support of my fielders for those times where, I couldn't strike people out. The occasional ground ball, line drive, or fly ball, you get it. I couldn't be at all places at the same time. So it's all relative in anything, especially in the creative realm, where we artists are always looking to write that next hit or record that next amazing production. The point is, you have to have a team. And in order to have a successful team, you need to get along and be able to impart and respect each other's knowledge to benefit the end result. Tip number 3. It expands your creativity, right? Because you begin to tap into other people's creative strengths and experiences, which can be a huge benefit in expanding your own creative horizons and knowledge. And the beautiful thing about the music industry, it's comprised of a myriad of individuals with different strengths and perspectives and skill sets. And when you find a group of people that are in complete alignment with your vision and your desires, dude, that's a recipe for success in any book. Now, I'm not saying it's always going to be a bowl of cherries. Of course, it's natural to have varying opinions or creative differences or even a little friction, because the truth is there's nothing wrong with that as long as the differences are handled professionally. And at the end of the day, you all agree on the elements that strengthen the project. And it doesn't matter who imparts it, as long as the end result is the masterpiece that you all collectively desire. And I've learned to embrace this mentality, especially when I collaborate with other songwriters. We'll break apart a song multiple times and we all impart different ideas or story concepts. But at the end of the day, it's all for the benefit of the song. Like, every word has to earn its spot in the song. And it doesn't matter who brings it to the table, as long as it benefits the song and solidifies the message of the story. And many will argue the fact that, all right, there's too many chefs in the kitchen, and I completely disagree. The only time that becomes a problem is when ego and status gets in the way, as I alluded to in tip number 1. Tip number 4. Now, this one's huge because collaborations will help you grow your network and, above all, your fan base. And there's this huge term that we use in the music industry called borrowing other people's audiences, which means nothing more than collaborating with other artists, which exposes you to what? Their world, which means production team, their marketing team, and above all, their fans, and vice versa. And the more collaborations you have, the more your fan base and industry connections grow exponentially, especially if you're uniting forces with a well-known artist, because it opens up the floodgates for so many other opportunities. We're talking more performances, or gigs as we call them, higher probability of getting picked up by a label, more media exposure, Spotify curators, bloggers, higher sales opportunities, which means what? Yes, more income. You start monetizing your stuff, and licensing opportunities, and of course, music industry clout and recognition. So, in other words, guys, the possibilities are endless when you begin to welcome collaborations. So remember, let's review here. Get rid of your ego. Always be courteous and respectful when working with other creative minds. And always, always welcome opportunities and advantages of great collaborations, because you never know. You might be passing up your next huge opportunity or hit song. And today's guest has surely made a habit of collaborating with some incredible artists, which have landed her some serious gigs, industry clout, and media exposure throughout her years as an incredible guitar player. So stick around. I've got another fun one for you when we return. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Mojo for Musicians podcast. To learn more about becoming a guest on the show to share your mojo with us, visit mannycabo.com and send us an email in the contact section. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss any future episodes. And if you like what you hear, be sure to give us a positive review on your favorite listening platform. And now, back to the show.
All right, welcome back, my Mojo Maniacs. And man, have I got another fun one for you today, because my guest today covers the entire realm of engaging adjectives, from beautiful, talented, comical, acrobatic, and yes, the most important one for me, always so humble. And the cool thing is, just by reading her bio, she's had a pretty fun, and pardon the pun, entertaining career. We're talking touring as a lead guitarist for artists like Nick West and the I Am King Michael Jackson Experience. She's rocked Broadway stages as well, playing the lead guitar in Dearly Beloved, if you remember the Prince tribute. And here's another fun one. I didn't know this until she introduced it. She actually played the role of, there's two things, Wendy from the movie, but I definitely think my favorite was the iconic Kia Soul commercial. You guys know the ones with all the hamsters. Remember the one with all the musicians? She actually played the guitar player. So that was pretty cool. And she also had an incredible performance on ABC's The Gong Show. That's where she gets all this acrobatic energy. And it's just, you got to check her out. You really do. Absolutely brilliant. So definitely check that out. And again, one of the important things for me we're going to talk about today, and why I have her on the show, is we're going to talk about the superpower of collaboration that every artist should have in their arsenal, which again is something that's so dear to me because it has helped me in my career. So let's please welcome to the show my dear friend, the blonde, curly-haired beast of a guitar player out of Los Angeles, California. And she's even got a cool name, Ariel Bellvalaire. So welcome to the show, Ariel. Man, it's been a minute since we last tapped in with each other. How are you?
Man, hi, Manny. How are you? I think the last time I saw you, I was like 15 or 16 years old, so it's definitely been a minute.
You were still living in Windsor, Connecticut, right?
I was. We would, my family would just drive me up to New Jersey so we could record, and yeah, that's where it all started, Windsor, Connecticut.
Oh, it's crazy to think it's been over 10 years where I first met. And
how?
Yeah, and it wasn't even doing music. It was for a photo shoot for your promo. And even then you looked like a rock star, and I still get so many compliments on that story series, man. So wow, that it's kind of surreal. It really,
that was my first photo shoot ever.
Yeah, but did you remember it? Was it a good experience? A quick testimony.
Oh man, it was one of the best, because it was like, I didn't realize it at the time because it was my first shoot, but it was one of the most like professional, biggest shoots, like full-on stylist, amazing photographer. We had hair and makeup.
Yeah,
whereas a lot of other photo shoots, you just show up ready to go and just what you're wearing, you go for it. So we set the bar pretty high from day one.
I told you. Did I tell you? I'm going to spoil you, Aaron. I can't speak for all the photographers in the industry, especially in the music industry. And I know we were going to have fun, and I did have I was fortunate enough to have a great team that day. So certainly worked out for the better. But listen, I got to ask, with this pandemic finally reaching its, I don't know, let's just say winter stages, hopefully, you must be embracing the jitters and butterflies like most of us musicians to get back on the road with some incredible projects. So please tell me, what amazing things are you working on right now that you could share with us?
So the coolest thing, like as hard as the pandemic was at the beginning, because I was literally on tour almost every day. I might have been home.
I remember.
A month, maybe.
Right.
Or like a Monday or Tuesday. I pretty much lived on the road. So when the pandemic hit, it was like complete night or day. I went from living at the road to always being home, which was crazy. But at that point, I was touring with so many different bands. The I Am King show. I was also touring with a all-female Guns N' Roses tribute. I played the Slash parts. That was really fun.
Of course you did.
Yeah,
of course.
mini Slash. Got the curls ready to go.
Did you wear the hat too? Did you wear the top hat as well?
Yo, I had a mini hat that clipped on because I rock out too hard to keep a hat on for more than 2 seconds, so we had to improvise with that. But I went playing with all of these other people to just being home and being like, well, I've always wanted to be a solo artist anyway. I've been signed for this a little while, but I've never really had time to just like sit down and figure myself out as an artist. It was kind of just like, well, it'll happen. I have a team. It'll just happen.
Sure.
But the pandemic was like, oh no, it's happening and you are going to make it happen right now. So it was kind of a blessing in disguise. So during this time, I released my first big single, Elastic, and a really awesome over-the-top music video that just had me playing guitar on the back of a moving motorcycle, playing guitar upside down on an aerial hoop. Yeah, it was pretty crazy. So now the goal after the pandemic is to do as much touring as I've always loved to do, but with my own music this time. So we just released a second single on Friday called Diamonds Are Cold. So it's like, it's a love song. It's like, are we going to make it? Are we diamonds? Or is it going to fall apart completely? Is it coal? And it kind of has like a circusy vibe because I'm a crazy circus acrobat. But yeah, the goal is to just tour as much as possible and perform my own stuff with my new band. And I'm still happy to play other shows with other musicians, but the main focus now is going to be my own stuff.
Of course, it's the Ariel show now, 100%, man. It's so good to have you on the show, though. I know this has been a long time coming, and we've been planning this for about 6 months, and it's certainly one of those, right? It's certainly one of those episodes that I've been adamantly looking forward to, as I alluded to before we got on here live, because it covers a topic that it's so important to me because it essentially allowed me to create some magic in my own art world and connecting with extraordinary artists. And I'm sure you could attest to that statement as well, because it's collaboration that unites us all, which you have evidently done in leaps and bounds, and successfully, I might add. So my first question to you is this, and it's a two-part question, starting with, what's the most memorable collaboration in your resume and why? And part two of that question is, how did you facilitate that relationship? Because let's address the elephant in the room. Collaborating in this industry sometimes can be difficult because there are lots of egos and tempers and creative differences. And you couple that with the fact that we artists are emotional creatures, and sometimes we don't see eye to eye, could exacerbate the tension. So yeah, tell me, how did these collaborations come to fruition?
Well, I've actually done 2 pretty big collaborations recently. And funny enough, they were all a collaboration of the top female guitar players. So I was so honored to be included in this. We had, the guitarist from like the Cirque du Soleil Michael Jackson show. She's amazing. We had one of the members from the Iron Maiden. So we're talking like top-notch, amazing female guitarists.
There's another guitar player, not to cut you off, a Kiki, I think. I don't know if she's from Hawaii. Yeah, she's another one. You guys remind me, similar styles, very, very fun, very entertaining. So, she's got the slick black hair and you're the total opposite, blonde curl. So that would make for a great, on stage performance too.
It really would. Kiki and I have done so many commercial auditions together. Whenever they're looking for a female rocker, they always call both of us in. It's like, hey girl, how you doing? Long time no see.
That's brilliant.
She's amazing.
Wow.
But the favorite collaboration we did was a special gift for Steve Vai, because he is a huge supporter of female musicians, and he supports this channel called Female Rockers, which has over 100,000 followers.
Wow.
And for his birthday, a whole bunch of the top female guitarists, 8 of us, put together a collab, each of us playing a little piece of his song to give to him on his birthday. That was incredible.
That's genius.
Playing a Steve Vai song with the top female musicians.
Oh, and he's a beast. Awesome. Like, he was one of the guitar gods growing up with me. He's right up there with Warren DeMartini and Angus Young. He's one of the greats. Wow, that's brilliant. So you guys just culminated that whole experience together. You created that project on your own whim. Was it something, or who decided to put that together?
Yeah, so for that project, it was the female rockers channel that put it together. And the cool thing about the female rockers who were in it, we were all just so happy to do it. It was like, pick a piece of the song you want, and then they put it together. We all sent in our videos and our audio.
I see.
A couple weeks early, and they just put together this amazing video, and it just came out so great.
Oh, you got to send that to me. I had no idea. Yeah, I'm dying to take a look at that. That must have been amazing.
Yeah, we did For the Love of God by Steve Vai. It's pretty awesome.
That's a good one. So in that midst, like, what did you encounter, with respect to certain collaborations? I know I don't like to talk about the tension, but were there instances where you're like, I'm not dealing with this. There's no way I'm going to be embark on this?
It's pretty cool. I've actually done several big guitar collaborations, and funny enough, it's all been with the female musicians. And people are always like, "Oh, girl bands, there's probably going to be so much drama."
Right, that's what I'm thinking, right? So
but there's not.
Wow, that's
there's
great.
Actually, in girl bands, there's been less drama than any bands I've been in. Surprisingly, we're all just like, we're here to do the job. We're here to pay respect to Steve Vai or the Shred collab we're a part of. Where do you want me to play? Any specific instructions, and when do you need it? It was so beautiful. I was like, wow, from all of us, that's amazing.
Yeah, because I've heard it from both angles. I have such some great friends who are lead vocalists as well. My good friend Megan Ruger from season 6 of The Voice. And, a lot of the female front, I don't know if is that okay to say front man or front women? Let's just say that. But they get a lot of attention because they're very intimidated by a lot of the male singers. But then they get the opposite end of the spectrum, which is like, oh, I can't stand her or whatever. So you would think that there would be a lot of tension, especially battling for the spotlight, with the lead guitarist. So that's great that you said that. It's very refreshing to know that you're not encountering that at all. And you guys support one another, which is beautiful, especially in this industry.
Yeah, definitely. Collaborations have just been so great, especially like with the pandemic. It made the world a lot smaller. So you can kind of collaborate with anybody from around the world just digitally. So there's all these just people coming together and saying, hey, do you want to collab? And it's like, yeah, sure. So like there are literally female guitarists and just guitarists from all around the world in these videos. It's just incredible. And we're all just excited to create together because it's been so long because we've all been shut down.
Yeah, you're not getting there. Trust me. I felt the pains. I've lost everything myself, including, I don't know if you were familiar, I lost my dad to COVID in December. So that's been a huge void. So, but I'm here persevering, and you guys are the fuel to my energy to keep my dad's legacy going. So thank you, for jumping on the show. And this is amazing. So don't want to delve too much down that road, but let's delve into question number 2 rather, which is this, like, in your opinion, what are the most important qualities to have when pitching a collaboration to whoever? Could be a songwriter, could be a producer, director, whatever the case may be. In other words, like, what qualities of a collaboration have catapulted Ariel to the status of where she is today?
So basically, the collaboration, in order to make it successful, you have to be very open and just not have one set outcome. You need to go in knowing what you generally want, but since there's so many moving pieces and other people involved, you have to like give them the instructions and just know that it's going to take on a complete life of its own, because the part they're playing may not be what you envisioned, but the whole point of a collaboration is to have other people's just magic just make it even better, their own talents. So just know that you're not going to have like the exact song you were picturing. It can have a complete life of its own, and that's what makes it so good and brings just everybody together for the project.
Well, yeah, even in my experiences as a songwriter, it's an amazing skill to not only be able to communicate with people, but communicate clearly and having everyone impart their own style, their own flavor. And in music, that's indispensable. So I couldn't agree with you more. And I'm just grateful that we can talk about the fun times. You haven't really encountered some dismal moments. I mean, me, on the other hand, too many that I'd like to even talk about on this show. But good for you. Good for you. And what piece of advice, this isn't part of the question list, but now that we're on the topic of here in collaborating, like, what piece of advice would you give your fellow female rock stars out there who want to be the next Ariel or want to be the next iconic female stage presence out there?
Yeah. So one thing that we always have this, or at least I did, I can't say everybody, but at least I had this illusion that, if I really wanted it enough and I practiced hard enough, it would just happen. Like, it would just happen one day. But that is so not true. You have to just put everything you have out there. You just have to keep going, keep grinding. I have a to-do list of about 30 things right here, and it's all just, how can I get myself out there? How can I have myself heard? Where can I be seen? And it's just constant. You have to keep putting yourself out there, create content, create new songs, reach out to people, whether you know them or not. you can send 100 emails and maybe you'll get 3 responses, but those 3 responses could lead to something else. You just have to keep going, go to as many live shows as you can, ask the bands if you can step in.
Right.
That's how I've been seen. I've literally gone up to strangers and been like, hey, I'm a guitarist from LA. Can I play your guitar with your band? Like, you just have to go for it and not expect anybody to do it for you. You just have to keep going and know that all the hard work will pay off, but it is definitely work. But that's what makes it so fun and rewarding.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I have to agree with you on the being bold part, because I talk about this all the time in multiple episodes and in classrooms, or, when I'm just engaging with heartfelt dialogue with other fellow musicians. It's like, if you're not bold, how the hell are people going to know you exist? You got to take that plunge. But I say this with a huge caveat, because you have to be fully prepared. Like, you really have to know your stuff before you approach people. And I know you know your stuff on multiple layers, with respect to your athleticism, not only your musical knowledge and expertise, but you're all over the place and you're all over the stage in a good way, literally. Oh, man. And listen, I know I'm trying to manage my time here, because I know you have to go, and I totally appreciate you jumping on here, because I know you have an audition. I'm excited for you. And of course it happens today, right? But you got to be in the spotlight, you got to be omnipresent. And these are the jobs that lead to other amazing opportunities. So let me get into question number 3 real quick, right? And again, this one's a little bit more personal. Like, for me personally, when I look at you, right, I glance at Ariel, I'm like, you're very bubbly. You're very boisterous, right? You're very approachable. And I know from working with you personally, those attributes were actually very authentic, even then, and refreshing. But have you ever had to alter your personality to, let's say, solidify or consummate a collaborative deal? And has being a female lead guitarist hindered or helped your situation? Because again, the reality is, in most bands, unless it's like a female cover band, it's a position mostly dominated by men. Now, for me, ever since I was young, I always favored the female rockers. There was the iconic Joan Jett and Lita Ford just ripping it up there and competing in that sea of male headbangers, who actually had better hair than most females back in the day anyway. So, there's that. But seriously, all kidding aside, what have been the pros and cons of being a female guitar player? And I even hate asking this question, but this is the world we live in, and I want to get the real scoop from you, especially for the purposes of empowering and educating all the female listeners out there who want to be the next Ariel or the next Lita or Joanne, as I alluded to before.
Yeah, so it's really interesting. It's definitely been a mixed bag. Like, I got into music not saying I want to be a female guitarist. I was just like, oh, I want to be a guitarist. I love this. And then it was brought to my attention that being a female guitarist is a completely separate thing. So I kind of went into it blindly. And I have to say, a lot of the biggest opportunities came to me because I am a female in a male-dominated industry.
Interesting.
They were specifically looking for a female guitarist who could play the same parts as the guys. So that kind of narrowed the competition pool of getting the job. But also, on the other hand, there is so much slapback. So you have to grow a really thick skin, which is hard because I am this bubbly, happy girl. And they say you have to deal with rejection well. And, when you are bubbly, happy, and from a completely different world, it is brutal at first.
Sure.
I was one of the first female guitarists on YouTube, and I was only 15 years old when I first put, words are hard, I can only play guitar, I swear, or sing. When I first put my cover up, it was a Ozzy cover. It was Mr. Crowley, and I was just learning how to play lead.
Right.
That video went viral, and I had men telling me every day, go kill yourself, get back into the kitchen. That was a decent attempt for a female.
Wow.
It was literally hundreds of these a day, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm just literally playing guitar in my house because it's fun.
Right.
So I got brutally attacked. It got better as I got older just because I got better at my craft. But even now, I can play something note for note and I'll be proud of it, but I'll still get, oh, that was a good attempt for a female. So you definitely have to prove yourself more. Like, you just have to know that you're valid in your own mind because you are so going to get attacked.
Yeah, of course.
Just for doing what you love. But you know what? I love what I do. I love being a female. I love being a guitarist, and none of that's going to stop me. So you just have to be prepared for it and just keep going, because at the end of the day, these opinions don't matter.
Right.
You can be up there on stage and the other person, who knows what they're doing? They're probably just sitting in their room wishing they were playing guitar. So you just have to go for it.
Right.
Well, but it's definitely been a challenge.
To say the least. And I have to echo with every word that you're saying, because I'm not a female, but I completely understand your defensive posture, because when I was on The Voice at 45, everyone's like, oh, this guy's a has-been, or he never was, or what's he doing up on stage in an industry where it's completely saturated by, teenagers 18 through 25. So what am I doing on the stage? And sure, it's really difficult to digest, because you're like, wait a second, dude, I'm just a normal guy going up there singing a song, having a great time, right? And you can empathize with that. But here's the thing that I'd like to admonish my listeners is anybody who's projecting all this nonsense on you and these criticisms are just amplifying their insecurities, and it has nothing to do with you or I. It's there's a big void within them that they really have to feel out and understand. And it's unfair that we're taking all the backlash, but that's cool, because I'm glad that you mentioned that. It's actually a prerequisite to develop thick skin in this industry. You have to. Right. You have to, especially, unfortunately, as a female. And that's why I wanted to address this, because I'm a supporter. I'm all big for women empowerment. I feel that, let me tell you, I would kill to be in an all-female band and just be a front man. It's just
it's fun.
Right? It's great for visuals. It's just entertaining. I don't know. It's just my perspective on things, but I do understand the tension that could develop from that. So I'm just so proud of you for continuing your journey, and forgetting and killing the noise and forgetting all the nonsense. So listen, we finally reached to the last question of the show. And I don't know if you've listened to any of the episodes, but this is essentially my signature question, which is, what's your mojo? Of course, full pun intended, but seriously, Ariel, what's your mojo? Like, what keeps you wanting to keep wailing on that fretboard while you're doing splits or displaying these quote unquote death-defying and, dare I say, again, full pun intended, aerial displays?
Yeah.
Oohs and ahs. That was terrible. But you know what's the best I got right now? So tell me.
Man, I am just in love with the show itself. I was born to be a performer, and the guitar just fell into my hand. I love guitar, but what really keeps me going is just performing and entertaining people. And I had all these little bits of things that I could do that were entertaining on their own. Right. And my goal was just to figure out a way I could entertain the audience like no one else, and just use a piece of everything. Right. So at first it was, playing guitar and going crazy and trying to just put on a show and project myself on the audience and just feed off of their energy. And the crazier I got with that, the more I got back from the audience. Right. And, I would lean back and they went crazy while playing a solo. And, I was a gymnast growing up. So I was like, well, what if I just did a split on stage? And they lost their mind. And I was like, oh my God, this is such a cool part of the show. So everything after that was just, how can I make the coolest show possible for people? Right. And then aerial gymnastics came along.
The problem with you is you keep raising your own bar,
Yeah, I don't even mean to. I'm just when I find something that looks cool that I'm good at, it's okay, now how can I add this to my guitar routine? How can I put this into a show? And is it something people have ever seen before? And if the answer is no, and it's dangerous, then it's all right, I'm in. Let's do it.
You're like a production within a production. They're like, what are we going to do with this one? We could do a whole show just put the spotlight on Ariel. That's all we need. And maybe put some backing tracks on it and stuff. But
Somebody told me, you were the only guitarist I've ever met that needs a helmet when they're on stage. I'm like, yeah.
That's
what
great.
The girls are for.
Yeah, for you, that's definitely something that you should be proud of, I guess. Wow. Yeah. And it's true, because you are such an amazing entertainer. And it's great when you could just implement all of your talents growing up, your athleticism, as I mentioned before, your skills, you look amazing. Like, you have all the qualities of a true rock star. So good on you. Proud of all of your efforts. And I could only wish you much success. And man, I had such a great time, Ariel. And it's always great talking to you, even though it took 10 years and 6 months to make this episode.
But,
but better
late than never, right?
Yeah, exactly. And again, I only wish you continued success and accolades. And hopefully we can collaborate once again in some creative capacity in the very near future, maybe on a song. There's a lot that we could do together.
I love that.
You know?
And one thing I would love to end with, just
Sure.
as a whole collaboration thing, is another thing you need to know is that there is no wrong way to do your craft.
Nice.
Your craft is your craft. If you want to play guitar upside down, do it. If you want to play guitar sitting down, do it. There's no wrong way to be you, and that's what makes collaborations with you so special.
Right. Well, I would say mic drop, or in this case, guitar drop after that one, So totally appreciate it. But listen, yeah, exactly. How can everybody find you? How can these future female rock stars or all type of musicians that are looking to just follow you and see the greatness that is Ariel Bellvalaire? Please talk to me.
Yeah, so I'm pretty much on every platform. You just type in Ariel Bellvalaire, Ariel guitarist, spelled like a little mermaid, Ariel.
Right.
Luckily, when you get to Bellvalaire, it pops up as soon as you spell Bell. So you don't have to spell the whole thing. You can find me. And just, be my friend. I just love meeting new people from everywhere.
Look at that. Even the algorithms are favoring you. That's fantastic. Well, listen, that's awesome. I'll let you get back to your audition. I wish you the best of luck on it. I know you're going to nail it. And let's do this again very, very soon. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
You're the best, Ariel. Have an amazing day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
This has been a Mojo for Musicians podcast. If you're a musician, producer, engineer, or any other industry professional wanting to share your mojo and stories of success with our listeners, or just want to share some feedback on today's episode, we'd love to hear from you. So just send us an email at info@mannycabo.com. Thanks for listening.